Hi, it's me again, Saurabh, your instructor. In this module, we will deep dive on the context of Agile. This covers basically two questions. The first one is, what does agility actually mean? Everyone is talking about Agile, but very few people actually know what it really means. The second question will be a short one, but why is agility important? In order to tackle both of these questions, we will use a simple model created by Professor Ralph Stacey from the UK. This model is based on two axes. On the horizontal axis, we have the what uncertainty, basically the types of products and services we want to build. On the vertical axis, we have the how uncertainty. How are we going to build this? What kind of technologies are we going to use for this? These two axes result in 4 different domains of work. At the very bottom, we have the simple domain. Very little uncertainty, both in terms of what to do and how to do it. Right next to this one, we have the complicated domain. Already a bit more uncertainty in terms of both what and how. In the middle, the large domain is the complex domain, with much more uncertainty in terms of what and how to do things compared to the simple and the complicated domain. And last but not least, at the top right quadrant of this diagram, we have the chaos domain. Now let's dive into each of these domains separately. We will start with the simple domain at the bottom left. Imagine you're renovating your house, and as part of that, you want to put new tiles on your bathroom floor. If you're like me, you hire someone to do that work for you because you don't know how to do it. So you invite an expert to come to your place, they take a look at the bathroom, they take a look at the size, the structure, and you show them the tiles that you have selected. Once you show them all of this, you ask them the most important question. How long will it take? How much will it cost? Take a moment for yourself and think about it. Do you believe the expert can give you an answer on that question? I believe they should be able to answer that question. Because the what part is clear. The size of the bathroom, the structure of the bathroom, and the type of tiles. The how part of the question should be something that they can answer based on their expertise. So if they cannot provide you with an answer, you should probably become skeptical. So in this simple domain, we can predefine the scope of the work, the time it takes to deliver the work, and the budget that is required to ultimately create your new bathroom or put the tiles on the floor. Predefining scope, time, and budget is what we do in traditional project management. And we refer to this as defined process control. I repeat this, defined process control. It's an important term that you need to remember. Now let's move to the complicated domain. This domain is characterized by a bit more uncertainty in terms of what and how. In order to give you a sense of it, we will stick to the same example as I previously shared with you, but we will change one variable. This time, the expert comes to your place. Again, they take a look at the bathroom, which is the size and the structure, but unfortunately, you have forgotten to buy the tiles yet. You still ask them the magical question. Can you tell me how long will it take? How much will it cost? Take a moment for yourself. What kind of response will you receive this time? In most cases, you will either receive a range, which means from this amount of time to this amount of time, or from this amount of costs to this amount of costs. Or the expert will tell you it depends. Both of these answers are a clear symptom of existing uncertainty. Now, there are 2 things that are really important about this. Because what you can do really, really well in the complicated domain is to first give an answer, what does it depend on, which would be the type of tiles, and B, reduce the uncertainty in a very quick way, in a theoretical way. So in our case, you could browse through a catalog or a website, select a specific type of tile, and through that, reduce the uncertainty, move from the complicated domain into the simple domain, and then be able to predefine scope, time, and budget as we did in the simple domain. So the message here is that defined process control, the fundamentals of traditional project management, they do work, but they work in the simple and the complicated domain. Now let's skip the complex domain and move right to the chaos domain. I want you to spend a few moments, and maybe you need to pause this video in order to spend some time thinking. And the question for you would be, what kind of organizations are by default in the chaos domain, which is characterized by a very high level of uncertainty, both in terms of what kind of products and services we want to deliver and how we're going to build those products and services. When I ask these questions in my regular courses, I frequently get the following responses. Startups are in the chaos domain. Why? Because in most cases, they don't know what they want to build. They have an idea, but they don't know what it clearly is. And as they are using new technology, they also have high levels of uncertainty in terms of how to build things. The other answer that I get is all companies that want to do innovation. Basically, everyone that wants to do something new, something that is not already existing, is in that domain. So my question to you then is, how do startups or highly innovative companies operate? Do they predefine the scope, the time, and the budget, go behind closed doors, build the product, and then at some point get out to the market and say, ta-da, here's our product, buy it? At least the successful startups and innovative companies don't do that. What most of them do is a systematic approach to reducing uncertainty. So step by step, they try to move out of this chaos domain and understand better what to build and how to build it. This type of approach, compared to the defined process control, is referred to as empirical process control. I repeat it again, empirical process control. You need to remember this term. Now, what can we do in empirical process control? Do we have to throw away all of those things that we had at the other triangle, the scope, the time, the budget? Probably not. Let's look at them one by one. So let's start with the budget. Can we fix our budget? I believe we can. Because if we look at very well-funded startups like Uber, or highly innovative companies like Amazon or Apple, with huge budgets, they still have a fixed budget, right? It's not like they give infinite amount of money to a certain project or an initiative. Let's look at the time. Can we fix the time? In most cases, we can. If we have to, we can set a certain time by which we want to achieve something. I was working with a company in Germany called MAN. They build trucks and buses. And we wanted to deliver a truck and demonstrate it on an exhibition. The time of the exhibition was fixed. So we had a fixed time for our project. So the last one is scope. Can we fix the scope? This is the one where I believe we can't fix it. For two reasons. One, if we try to fix all three, there is no flexibility, no variability, no agility in the system. The second reason is, if we look at our dimensions with regards to uncertainty, we have high levels of uncertainty due to what are we going to build. So based on this uncertainty, we cannot define the scope, at least not in the same level of detail that we used to do in traditional ways of managing projects. So in our case, we will replace the scope with a product goal or a product vision, which is on a much higher level where you can be stubborn on the vision, as Jeff Bezos says, and flexible on the details. And depending on the budget and the time that you have, you can prioritize what kind of work you will deliver due to a certain budget or until a certain time. So if we compare these two approaches, empirical process control in the chaos domain and defined process control in the simple and complicated domain, we see that they have at least one fundamental difference. And that is, to what extent do we believe can we predefine the scope of an initiative, the the scope of a product, the scope of a project. The complex domain between complicated and chaos is by its nature much closer to the chaos domain. So the same principles of systematically and frequently reducing uncertainty as we do in the chaos domain would be very helpful in this complex domain as well. Empirical process control is based on 3 pillars: transparency, inspection, and adaptation. I'm referring to these because when we look at Scrum in one of our next modules, you will see that Scrum as a framework tries to create transparency and help you do inspection and adaptation on a frequent and systematic basis. So let's get now to our second question. Why is agility important? In order to explore this, I want you to take a moment and think about it. Where would you position your existing projects or initiatives? Do you believe they are in the simple domain with very little uncertainty both in terms of what and how? Or would you position them more close to the chaos domain with high levels of uncertainty with regards to what and how? My guess is that the vast majority of your projects or product development initiatives is somewhere in the complex domain, and that you would benefit from an empirical approach. Empiricism equals agility. So the more projects and initiatives we have in this complex or even chaos domain, the more we need to adopt empirical ways of working or agile ways of working. I hope this module helped you understand these 2 fundamental questions. What does agility mean? Basically, empirical process control. And why is it important? More and more of our projects are either in the complex or chaos domain. I hope you enjoyed the class. See you for the next module.